Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Welcome back, guys, and we want to thank our newest patron.
We want to say a huge thank you to Pedro. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your support over there on Patreon and the growing family over there. So, we had chaos in the Hague yesterday in the Netherlands. Again, everything we see going on with the migrants coming in illegally into the U.S. from both the southern and northern border, and being flown in as well. I mean, it's and coming in ships and storming the beaches. It's just crazy what we have going on. But what we see here in the U.S. has been going on in other NATO countries as well. And yesterday was, it was curious because it seemed a little bit more unified chaos, maybe a test run for awakening some of these to the next level of their not so hidden intent, so to speak.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the headline right here, and to me, this speaks so loud. It says, "We hope that this video can contribute to the identification and deportation." So to me, it's like create the problem so they can roll in their AI. It's been all about the AI, and it's just a means to an end. They'll do whatever they need to do to get the AI here, no matter who gets hurt in between.
Yeah, and so, that was relatively calm what you saw there because, in effect, they lit things on fire. They caused a lot of chaos and havoc. They were literally fighting with the police. And this is part of... It amazes me how people can't see what this is really about. And in so many ways, this is sending ahead a scouting party to go ahead and cause a little random chaos, cause stress because, the rest of the war is still to come. But it should be very evident for people at this point in time. The chaos that we see here is not random, and it's not something that has not been well planned out. It's been well planned out way, way, way in advance. Everything we see going on is part of one big play, one big drama. And yes, absolutely, we are now going to a different phase. It's beginning that phase of a much more open warfare. And again, you could stop anybody else from coming in at this point in time, but you have millions, tens of millions inside the U.S. and probably tens of millions inside the EU borders as well. The chaos that is coming is really going to be kind of unfathomable for many people as you see the aftermath. Most fiery, but mostly peaceful. Eritrean rioting. Yeah, that's a little sarcasm there. A little sarcasm. Sarcasm is something that I think we'll see more and more often. What can you do when this chaos is orchestrated at the very highest levels of governance on this planet? And that's what we are realizing. A lot of people are realizing. Many people have known all along. Here you see this post. Japan has succumbed to international pressure. Yes, because again, this is a UN program. It is right out there that this is a UN program. United Nations program underway here. So, again, the chaos is something that is kind of inevitable at this point. Here you have Somali illegal immigrants, use the term aliens, that fits too, proclaim support for Ilhan Omar and JB inside Panama migrant camp. Yeah, you see wave after wave of people coming in from so many different countries. They knowingly are entering the country illegally, and many of them know that they are supposed to create chaos at a certain point in time. What is going to happen is that some will do that, and others will decide, nah, I'm here. They're settling into a new life, and some will not take part in the chaos. Some will not go ahead with what has been planned and why they're here in the first place. Again, each is a unique person, and every person has their own decisions to make.
They do. We just need to be aware of what's going on so we know which direction we can go in. I don't know how much longer before they really start doubling down on episodes where people come in and they cause a lot of problems, but I don't think it's too far off.
No, because we know there's certain timelines that are in effect, and they're to cause a lot of chaos to kind of soften up these countries for what comes after. If you can't see the writing on the wall, you need new glasses. You really, really do. San Francisco appoints first non-citizen to serve on Elections Commission. Kelly Wong came to the U.S. in just 2019. Wait a minute. She's only been here for 5 years. She isn't legally allowed to vote, but she's going to oversee and create policy for San Francisco Department of Elections. If you can't see that California is already part of China, then there's just something wrong with the cognitive ability. It's so obvious. Again, we talked about what for so many people is obvious when Gavin Newsom welcomes Xi, when JB talks longingly about the times he's climbing the Himalayas with Xi. It's just crazy. And you got Klaus just saying, oh, China, Xi Jinping, they're such a glorious example. Again, Chinese culture is wonderful. Their history is vast, and really it's very, very colorful. They've given the world so much, but yet none of us want to be run by the CCP. And, at least nobody in their right mind, let's just say. And that's exactly what's happening. California's lost. I do think it's lost geopolitically. Most of the country, again, can see what's happening. This plan is so deep. It's on such high levels that, again, what can you do? Well, you just got to make the choice. Again, do we just sit still? Do we just put out positive intentions? Do we just ignore everything that's happening? Again, I think we should work to try to get ourselves as self-sufficient as possible. When we talk about how do you get out of the system, well, what's in the system depending on the system. So if you are counting for any sort of governmental support to feed you, to house you, that's in the system. And of course, we're all in the system to some degree. But the more you count on the government for anything, whether it's, again, housing, food stamps, supplemental income, Social Security, anything and everything that we count on the government for is going to be something that will be dangled over our head, and you'll be told, if you want to have this continue, then you're going to have to do this. It's just going to be that simple. And a lot of people will say, I can't do without, X, Y, or Z. And they'll end up caving. And that's what we mean. Again, getting out of the system, first and foremost, is reclaiming your health, physically and mentally, using nature instead of using everything that the system hands you. One of our family members that's near and dear was doing the thing that so many of us were brought up with. When the little one gets sick, just went to the DR. Instead of doing what we would do, which I'm looking at a bottle of colloidal silver just sitting there on the table, Because again, that's the first direction we would go if we felt like we or one of our family was sick. What will we do? Well, we'd recommend you boost your immune system. You could do things like colloidal silver. You could take oil of oregano. There's so many natural things you can do in our minds that are not going to weaken your immune system. When you take that thing, which is so commonly given out, and it's probably the most prescribed thing out there when people get sick, anti-life, whatever it is, pill form or whatever. And again, antibiotics literally means anti-life. You're blasting your system. So you wipe out that which you perceive to be attacking you and causing you to feel ill, but you wipe out all that that's actually protecting your body and keeping you in harmony and balance. And now you're more susceptible to anything that comes along next. Cindy was touching on washing our hands with these hand sanitizers that are, again, stripping away all that that's actually protecting us and beneficial. There's 10 times more things living in your body naturally than there are cells in your body. And there's a reason for that, because that's part of how your body stays in homeostasis and stays healthy. We rely on that positive bacteria that's living inside our body to actually help to keep it in a balanced state of being. There's so many things they have done, like antibacterial soaps and stuff. Again, every time you wash your plates, a tiny bit of residue stays there. It builds up over the days, the weeks, the months, the years. And it is like taking in antibiotics. It is blasting your entire system. And you wonder why people are constantly sick. Because they're constantly doing things to weaken their immune system.
I mean, everything that the system or mainstream supplies to you, things like dish soap, hand sanitizers, shampoos, makeup is huge. Makeup is notorious for having tons and tons and tons of toxins in it.
How about feminine napkins?
Oh my gosh, let's talk our cycle for just a moment. Look into getting period underwear. I didn't know they had them. I'm just now learning about this. I'm so close to menopause. I'd rather just skip the whole thing, but I'm stuck.
Sorry, guys. For the guys out there, sorry about this.
Sorry, guys.
But it's necessary.
Necessary detour. Necessary detour. The sign is up. Ladies, look for some non-toxic cotton period underwear. The napkins I noticed a little while ago were causing all kinds of problems. I mean, and there's like little nanotech in there. All of this stuff that gets that's created for absorption is next to your skin. And it's not just me. I talk to lots of women who are like, oh my gosh, I was just so irritated in that area. And then I talk to them about other ways. There's other ways, other things you can do, but that's my go-to is the period underwear. It seems to have everything resolved. And, I just get mine on Amazon. So they're non-toxic. You can get cotton or bamboo. Just look for non-toxic. And it's going to be better than the napkins and tampons you get in the store. So this is a world where you have to go, lesser of evils. But the soap that we use, the hand sanitizers, all of this stuff, did you know that parasites feed on this? And then parasites feed other parasites? And it just gets bigger and bigger up the chain. So this is like a total disruption in our bodies. Mike has talked about the terrain theory. This is turning us totally backwards. Our bodies are upside down. So everything we think is okay to use that mainstream sells, it's making us so sick. And it's just a little bit of toxin here, a little bit of toxin there. And makeup. Ladies, makeup, it's really, really horrible. It really pollutes your body with those bad estrogens, and you really start having troubles. You start having like eczema and even hormone disrupting chemicals in them, especially with fluoride. Fluoride is a neurotoxin, and every dentist you go to puts it in your mouth. I mean, once you learn this stuff and once you're awake to it, it's harder and harder to watch the real world function. But Mike and I both have a calling, and we're here every day until that calling is done. And we're here to help people wake up and get them on their path to wellness and hopefully out of depending on the system.
Absolutely. I mean, the system controls us really through the monetary system, but through the education, the medical, the banking obviously is a big thing, and also the religious control system too. And what you see here is pretty obvious for many people. I mean, why in the world would you bring somebody in to oversee elections and they've only been in the U.S. 5 years? And they're from perhaps your biggest rival. Mitch McConnell's sister-in-law, by the way, died in a car wreck. Angela Chow was the CEO of a major shipping company, Foremost Group, and a Bank of China executive. Yeah, his wife, Elaine Chow, is former Secretary of Transportation. When you look at the connectedness and you recognize, again, let's just look and see what CIA and the FBI say, otherwise known as Wikipedia. The Bank of China is a commercial bank headquartered in Beijing, etc. It's state-owned. So it's owned by the CCP. Okay, it's owned by the CCP. Mitch McConnell's sister-in-law is working for the CCP. Yeah, obviously, his wife is working for this. They are. This is part of the takeover. It just should be so obvious, and I know it is to all of our regulars. And we do appreciate and love you guys, and we love your insights and sharing what you have discovered. When you look to the Brain Trust, again, the former CEO, Susan Wojcicki, her son died Tuesday, 19-year-old, inside a dorm at the University of California at Berkeley. Again, they say this was no signs of overdose, no signs of foul play, but it was a drug overdose is what they are thinking. There's been a lot of curious things going on. So Mitch McConnell's sister-in-law died in a car wreck. And then Susan Wojcicki, again, YouTube CEO, former YouTube CEO, again, Sergey Brin, Susan's sister, 23andMe, Google Alphabet. Interesting times. Meanwhile, Putin's number 2, Medvedev, just threatened to nuke DC, London, Berlin, and Kiev. They won't be able to nuke these cities, but they will be able to try out things like the rods of God and the newer versions, modifications to things like the rods of God that we've seen. And we do feel, unfortunately, that this is what they are planning to do, is utilize a technology that can mimic a NUKE blast, but it is not NUKE. They're not going to be radioactive. But that doesn't mean that they won't say certain areas are radioactive and you can't go into those zones. This is how they can hurt us. And this is speaking so plainly right now. Again, we're very close to these times. And in fact, we may be just weeks or months away. Again, it's time to be as prepared as possible for everything that's coming. Here you have the Brazilian president, Lula da Silva, calling out Israel. What Israel's doing in Gaza is like what Hitler did. Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is to anger and enrage the entirety of the world to the point where things just start to break. And there's so much hatred because they feed off of hatred. Everything that they do is all about division and hatred. And here you have France has been developing a new experimental kamikaze type drone over the past year. It's going to hand them over to Ukraine next week. So they want feedback. So in other words, they want to see how lethal they are. The world is just so crazy where you spend so much more money on death and destruction than you do on actually helping life. But yet this is what you have in a Kali Yuga. It is part of the Kali Yuga. And also, the only way we get out of a Kali Yuga is recognizing for what it is and not going along with it. Stepping outside of it as much as possible. Do not become part of the hatred. Do not become easily manipulated. Here is RFK Jr. I'll leave you with 3 thoughts. And by the way, Cindy can see that there is a Draco around him, but it doesn't apparently have control of him. Like so many of the other politicians, whether this is because he's holding more light or whether it's part of a plan, we really we don't know at this point in time. But when we look at the regular politicians, like when you look at Netanyahu, there's literally 3 Draco always right around him, controlling every motion. So if you want to interpret that from a more biblical standpoint, you could say that Netanyahu is absolutely being manipulated by demonic powers. Absolutely. He's totally in demonic control. And yet, some will just give Israel and anything Israel does a blank slate because they feel that, well, that's what the God of the Bible wants. Now, that's exactly how darkness has gotten people to commit acts of atrocity against other people, thinking that it's what their God wants them to do. Again, each one of us has to make our own choice. But I would venture to say that taking the higher road is not going down that path.
Mm-mm. No, and I just look back and what happened? Why did the controllers make so many people afraid of witches, but no one was afraid of those that were killing the witches? I mean, we really haven't changed, and nothing has changed. The terrain has changed. Technology has changed, but everything is still the same, where it's all bass backwards, and morally we're just going down further and further and further into the dumps unless we really kind of dig in with our feet and plant our feet and stop, draw a line, and tell ourselves we're not going to go past that line. I don't know. I don't see a lot of change happening. There has to be a desire to resist, and there's a lot of people still that are in the system. The system really benefits them, and until there's something really major happens in their lives that touches their soul in a negative way, unfortunately they're not going to do anything. But don't let that stop you. I mean, if you're awake, keep being awake, baby step your way out of the system.
Absolutely. So he says any power the government takes from people will never return voluntarily. That is very true. Every power the government takes, it will ultimately be abused to the maximum extent possible. That definitely seems also to be true. Nobody ever complied their way out of totalitarianism. The only thing we can do is resist. That also is very true. But how do we resist without creating a new evil? Again, people were, if we look to Russia, we look to the last days of the Tsar, and the Tsar's family that were apparently killed. Again, apparently, because, there's a lot of appearances, such as like Hitler, and the reality that he was actually just shuffled out of the country and over to Argentina, and et cetera, et cetera. But the Tsar and that form of government was so out of touch with the average person, and it was a totalitarian government. Again, a Tsar is basically a dictator. Now, whether we say, a king, or, whether it's Chairman Mao or Joseph Stalin, they're all dictatorships. And ultimately, even though what we think is the ultimate source of the dictatorship is just a figurehead and taking orders, it's still a dictatorship. And one tends to get replaced often with an even worse one, because you went from the Tsar to at first we had Lenin, and then we have Stalin. And what did Stalin do? Kill tens of millions. What did Mao do? Killed tens of millions. This is exactly what we have the danger of. So we have to be aware that we don't want any sort of central power. Oh, but then you're talking anarchy. Well, that is one of the definitions of anarchy, is no central government. And it's something that is viewed in such a negative light because, again, everything is given to us, is given to us from a central government. An extended period of rain, high elevation snow is going to impact California today into Tuesday. Again, 3 to 5 more inches is possible of rain on top of already soggy soil in both San Francisco and LA, so you might see more mudslides and flooding. Be aware of that. Cindy picked up on this. Several stolen horses are found slaughtered in rural South Miami-Dade. They were being used for food. They were basically, the carcasses were processed like they were being used for food. To feed who is the question mark. Gets me thinking again about all the instances of just so many illegal immigrants and migrants coming over in boats into the Everglades, and like the visions I had seen so many years ago of armies being formed and moving on up from southern Florida up northward, and massive evacuations. Could be something else entirely. This is in Mississippi. This is in central Mississippi, Lake George, Holly Bluff area. And here you see a 25 mound fortress. There's so many mounds that you would be probably surprised, because you don't see these often mentioned in Mississippi, and also across the river over in Louisiana. And what are you looking at? They look pyramidal, do they not? They look like pyramidal complexes. Well, these are from a different age. And again, they don't want you understanding how things were in a different age. And what Cindy picks up on immediately is the open extraterrestrial involvement with those that we would call more tribal living humans in the last Dwapara, which would be the Bronze Age before the Kali Yuga took hold.
Mm-hmm. When I look at this, I see all these little ships coming and going to and fro, talking to people, teaching people, but they're definitely not human, and these ships are not any technology that we have today. They're totally different, but it's so busy, so buzzy. I mean, like a little town. So there's a lot going on here. I have a feeling this is one of many different little platforms or different little startups, how the world was seeded with knowledge and information on how to heal one another, how to, live off the land, how to structure larger areas full of people. It just feels like a little business, but like a positive little business. It's really fun. The vibe is fun. It's like a little coffee shop. It's very busy in there.
Absolutely. And so, again, how do we get ourselves more out of the system? Right now, it's being ready for the coming crash that's coming, the crash to the system, because, again, they want to bring people to their knees. And, again, this is a bedtime story that could give nightmares, but we need to be prepared for what's coming. We need to rest up. We need to get strong. We need to be as healthy as possible. So obviously that would be eliminating junk food, eliminating as many processed foods as possible, getting good rest wherever you can. Exercise is so beneficial. We really prioritize exercise, and, we're not spring chickens, and I could speak for myself more than I can for her, because she is like a decade younger than me. But we're not spring chickens, but yet we exercise like we're training for training for battle, because in reality we are training for battle, even if we're not going to face combat, and hopefully none of us have to face any sort of combat. But we need to improve our endurance. We need to clear out our body of all the toxins, detox regularly. And there are so many good YouTube channels that are just dedicated to things like that. Again, Mindy Pell's, Dr. Mindy Pell's, Thomas DeLauer. There's just so many that you can go to that are completely about detoxing, building your immune system, healthy natural alternatives. Yesterday we again, we were stocking up. We made our way around to a bunch of stores. We did 100 miles of shopping and driving to get good, organic, wholesome, as much as possible, farm-grown food stocked away. We got 6 pomegranate trees because I love pomegranates, and we're going to be planting those. So now we have probably somewhere around 40 or 45 fruit trees and bushes that we planted in the last 6 months, getting ready for what's to come. Yes, most of them will not probably produce this year. We'll get some berries. We'll get some raspberries. We'll get blueberries. We'll get blackberries. Those things come in quick. But the others will be coming in the next, succeeding couple years, 2-3 years. But we also got a property that has 10 or 11 large pecan trees that we're nursing back to health that could end up providing hundreds of pounds of pecans. And nuts are so nutritional, so calorically dense. I'll just share with you guys briefly. I have about 50 pounds of organic peanut butter either here or on order, because again, peanut butter is very calorically and nutritionally dense, and it's something we would lean on. We have cases of organic coconut milk and coconut cream. Can be utilized in many different ways, and actually the dogs love it in their homemade dog cookies that we make. Organic pumpkin puree, we just picked up some more of that too. So to put into stock with hundreds of pounds of rice, beans, lentils, amaranth, quinoa, stone-cut oats. In reality, as far as those items I just mentioned, probably a good ton of that material, literally. And some of it is stored in long-term containers that can last many, many years. All of it is stored in dry, safe areas that are, protected from pests and parasites, etc. So, again, we're ready for the long haul, but we still have so much to do. And so even though we're far more ready than most, we're still nowhere near where we wanted to be for the times that are coming. But all we can do is our best, and that's, again, what we're encouraging you to do. Just like we haven't spent a dime in several years going out to dinner because we don't eat out. We don't trust any food out there, and we don't trust anybody to be preparing food that we're eating because we don't know what they've done, what decisions they've made, how well they've washed or not washed their hands with antibacterial soap and things like that. Because again, it depends on what your priorities are, and our priorities are building mind, spirit, and body.
I know we have a lot of stuff in the ground, but there's a lot of learning to do. It doesn't mean you're going to get fruit and everything right away. I have a lot to learn. So those are things you need to take into account too, is what is your stress load? How much stuff can you handle? My hope is we put a lot of stuff in the ground. Hopefully half of them will take hold. I'll be happy with that.
And so again, we look forward to your comments. Thank you for your support. Stay as prepared as possible. Much love. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.